What up, party people? It's your boy, your marvelous man candy, MC Popsicle! Thank you. And today I'm super excited. We're talking to Marv Wolfman, one of the most important comic book writers of all time. He wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths for DC, which is constantly held up as one of the three most important comic book series of all time. He also invented some small comic book characters like Tim Drake, Cyborg, Blade, Starfire, Raven, Bullseye, Black Cat, and a bunch of other ones. So I'm so excited to talk to him. But first, shout out to Nevin Eyewear. They make all my sunglasses. They are sponsoring this video. And now, let's get into it. What up, party people? It's your boy, MC Popsicle, and welcome to Weird Interviews. Well, hey, Mr. Wolfman, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for doing this. I've been so excited to talk to you.
Well, this should be fun.
It will be fun. So I do comics I do an indie comic called Popsicle Ghost. I've started pretty recently working on my own comics. So I look up to you a lot, and
Thank you.
this is very exciting for me to talk to you. So when you were growing up, were you reading comics a lot, or how were comics brought to you in your life to where it was something that you wanted to get involved in?
Well, when I was a young kid, I don't know how old exactly, but I was pretty young. I was at a friend's house, and we were watching a kids' TV show called Howdy Doody. And at the end of Howdy Doody, normally we would get up and change the channel to another show that was on a different channel. This is before remote controls, obviously. And for some reason, we didn't get up immediately. And the show that was right after Howdy Doody was The Adventures of Superman. And at the end of the Superman, it says it's based on the comic book. And we both got up and walked to the corner where there was a newsstand and bought our first comic book. So I was a real young kid, and from that point on, I was reading comics. Probably about 6 to 8, someplace in there, maybe 9.
Wow, that's wild. Was that the animated Superman?
No, this is the original George Reeves Superman from 1950s.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I know about him too. The so you're reading comics, and then you were in high school and you did something called I Was a Teenage Grave Robber. I read that.
No, that's Stephen King.
That's in your Wikipedia.
They have you're misquoting it. I Was a Teenage Grave Robber is a story that Stephen King wrote for one of my fanzines. Well, he didn't write it for me, but I published it.
Wow. Okay. So you started out doing fanzines. Was it of horror?
I published 4 different fanzines. One was a horror, one was superheroes, one was a humor one, and a horror one. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
So over a number of years, I published a whole bunch of those.
Wow.
All different types of fanzines.
Cool. And so that's what led into you getting into comics?
Well, what happened was I was writing the stories for my fanzines and writing stories for Stories of Suspense, which was the horror fanzine. And I would send my fanzines to a couple of the editors at DC and Marvel. And Joe Orlando, who was an editor of DC's House of Mystery and House of Secrets and a bunch of others, got back to me and said he really liked my stories in the fanzine. If I wanted to, I could submit some ideas for stories for House of Mystery. I did, and he bought them.
Oh, wow. That's wild. And so after that, it was just full speed ahead? getting into
Well, it was
comics?
very slow. I was really still just a rank amateur, and it took a while before my work got better. So I wasn't selling immediately, but I was selling very slowly until I got better.
Wow. So, I've been reading Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I have never been so astounded reading something just because of the scale of it just blew my mind.
Thank
And
you.
it's incredible. And it's like playing chess like with 1,000 pieces. And I was so impressed with that anyone could do that.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. And so were you the one that came up with the idea in the first place to do that?
Yeah, I've written about this an awful long time. I mean, a lot for a while. And it's actually I published in the first issue of Crisis in the letter column is all the history of how this thing came up. But essentially what happened was that the I was writing a letter column for Green Lantern, which was a book I was writing, and I was doing putting the letter column together. And somebody wrote in talking about the fact that DC continuity was very weird to follow. It was hard for somebody who wasn't steeped in it totally. And what could we do about it? I thought about that for a while, and suddenly the whole idea for Crisis came to me. And I told a whole bunch of my friends as we were going to a convention, actually, what my idea was, and they all thought it was great. So on Monday, when we got back from the convention, I went and pitched the idea to Dick Giordano, who was the editor-in-chief, and he immediately got up and we walked to the publisher's office, Jeanette Kahn, and she loved it, and the rest was history.
Wow. That's so crazy. That's amazing. That like and also that they would just be like, okay, here, change our entire universe.
Well, the thing of it is that the DC continuity was really hard to follow, and we weren't selling nearly as well as Marvel books were selling. And I think they were looking for something that could make DC special. And I'm coming in there at exactly the right time because the books aren't selling all that well with an idea, and except for Teen Titans, which I was writing. So they saw that I was doing a book that was selling very well, and let's try this new idea that he has as well. And we went from there.
Right. So one thing, I mean, it's a very obvious thing when you look at Crisis on Infinite Earths, but just with so many different characters and different worlds and different times, how do you keep everything on track mentally? Is that something that's easy for you? Or are you having to write all these notes, or how do you do that?
It's gotten easy for me. In the old days, in the original days, I would have spent time writing it all up, who the character was, what they liked, what they didn't like, what was good, what was bad, all sorts of stuff. So I totally understood the characters. Because I had been reading DC Comics since I was a kid, I knew every single character that they had. Also, I was on staff at DC, and during lunch hour, I would go into the library and I'd read all the old books. So they had every single book they ever published, and I read them all. So I was pretty well steeped in DC mythology, so I didn't need to really write down anything for it. I knew the characters inside and out. Fortunately, so did George Perez, who just was phenomenal as the artist for the book. Nobody else could have drawn it but him.
Yes, and I mean, I think being you, it's kind of missing on you how incredible a feat that was to write something like that, because you are you. But if you took any other person and put them in that situation, I feel like they would go crazy, because that's just so much information.
Yeah, the trick is know your characters, and if you know your characters, you know how they're going to act, you know how they're going to speak. So I knew those characters inside and out. And I really didn't need all the reference that we got, even though we did do a lot of research. We used most of that research for the Who's Who, DC's Who's Who, rather than Crisis, because I didn't need it. But Who's Who was more of a fact type of book, where all the minor details had to be put in. So we used all the reference that we got in that one instead of in Crisis.
Wow. Yeah, that's just that you seem like you're a very custom built person to be able to tackle all this stuff. There are not many people that could do that.
Well, thank you. I worked on it for a long time, and it worked. What can I say?
Whoa, hold on right there. I just want to give a shout out to Nevin Eyewear. They make all my sunglasses. They're spectacular, and they have a deal right now that if you buy one pair of glasses, you get 3. Just make sure to put Popsicle in the code at the checkout and get 3 pairs of glasses for 1. All right, back to the video.
Yeah, no, it worked. It really worked. So you've created a lot of characters, and is there any one way that you go about creating characters, or is it just kind of different based on who it is at the time, or
there is no one way of doing anything. This is you keep trying to find what works for each job, and each job is going to be very different. So you can't use what you learn in job 1 in job 2, because the circumstances are different. You create a character because the character is needed. You need a character who represents this type of a story, this type of an approach to writing. And you base the character you're creating on what you need this character to do, what you need this character to be able to do. That's the most important thing. You're not just going to throw in any character. It has to be one that there's a reason for that character existing. And if there's a reason for that character existing, you really play to those strengths or those weaknesses, depending upon what you want from that character. But you have to keep working on it to make sure there's a reason you're creating this character, and the reason has to be really strong in order for us to make the character work.
Right. So, with Tim Drake, so had Jason Todd died at that point that Tim Drake came about?
Yes. Jason was killed, and they had wanted to bring in a new Robin. What I came up with was a realization that this character, that Batman had gotten very violent, and this character figured out who Robin was, which meant he figured out who Batman was, and we saw that Batman was acting very violent, and he realized that Batman needed somebody to temper his anger, and he needed a Robin. And so, as I say, that's what's needed to help Batman. And working on the character, there was a reason that we had to create a new Robin, and that was that Batman had to learn to be what he used to be, instead of very violent and angry all the time.
Right, because Jason Todd seemed kind of volatile, and Tim Drake was a much more mellow together.
Tim Drake existed to bring Batman back to being a better character, not a violent character, not a madman. Because your hero should not be a madman.
Right.
And he was becoming that, and Tim was somebody who could bring him down and make him care about something other than beating up the bad guys.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be a constant with Batman, is riding that line between being crazy, vengeful, and heroic.
Right.
But so I read a lot about Blade and Cyborg and a lot of these other characters, and at the time you were a big proponent of different ethnicities, different races being superheroes, and you created those two characters, which are huge characters. And from what I read, you had some pushback about their creation and stuff like that, because at the time people didn't know what to do with that type of thing. And what made you want to do that?
Well, you have a situation, if for most people when they're going to high school, you go to school in your area, so that the other students are people pretty much like you, because you're all in one area and you tend to form groups like that. I didn't do that. I went to a school called the High School of Art and Design. That was in Manhattan. I lived in Queens. That school took people from every part of New York. So I was used to being in a school system and being in a class that had people from every ethnic group, because it took from every place in New York. And that meant that I was used to all people, all different types of people in the same area. And you go, well, why aren't there more characters that represent the readers just the same way I'm now creating characters that represent what I've gone through? So my view was, there's no reason there shouldn't be. Give me a reason why there isn't different ethnic groups. And I fully believe that there should be, because that's the way real life was. Not that I was trying to prove a point or anything, but just reflect real life, which would make the stories maybe reach out to more people than would normally buy it. Right. But I wasn't thinking of sales or anything. I was thinking of good storytelling, and good storytelling is putting lots of different types of characters together and making them all work together, whether they like each other or not.
Right. No, I agree with you. I found that very interesting. And I mean, you pushed comics forward in some ways maybe you didn't even think about how that would affect everything in the future. But I mean, it's crazy because Cyborg is now in the Justice League movies, and then Blade had all his movies, and that's crazy. Those characters are iconic now.
I just, as I said, I just wanted to do stories that featured people that I knew were of all different ethnic groups, and therefore it made sense that the stories I write would feature characters from all different ethnic groups. I wasn't trying to set the world on fire. I didn't even think about that. This Blade, when I came up with Blade, he immediately was black in my mind. I don't know why, but I felt that that's what that character should be. Same with Cyborg, same with some of the other characters that I come up with over the years. You do it. I'm just trying to tell stories about people. And when you bring people from different ethnic backgrounds together, you're going to have time to explore those different ethnic groups. And that makes it more interesting than if everybody was exactly the same.
I agree. Yeah, that's great. I think that you were onto something there. So I'm a newer writer. I've been working on one series and I'm starting another right now. And what are some tips you would give to a new writer in comics?
It's really hard because I broke into comics over 50 years ago, and therefore I don't know how you present stuff to people today. I mean, they come to me now. I don't come to them, so I don't know what to do. But the thing to do in writing is learn your characters, learn your people, make them interesting, find ways to make your stories that readers care about your characters and your stories. It's all about that. If it's not on the page, it's not going to work. If you don't write interesting characters, so you have to learn how to do that. You have to explore every character in depth. Figure out what they like, figure out what they don't like, figure out what they do, how they do things, figure out how they speak to other people. Think about what they think about other people. And if you do that, you're part of the way there already.
Yes, sir. That's good. So what of all the stuff that you've done yourself, what do you like the best? Like, I know it's like choosing between your children, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm asked that question all the time, and I never answer it because it's not what I think is the best. It's what the reader thinks is the best. Sorry.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. So, last question. Favorite superhero of all time and why?
Superman, because he represents the best in people.
That's good. Yeah. I'm excited for this new Superman movie. I think it'll be cool. It'll be back to the old school Superman.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed every movie so far that James Gunn has done, starting with a zombie movie that he actually wrote, that Zack Snyder directed.
Was it Army of the Dead? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think that was it. So that's the first film of his I saw. I didn't know, I wasn't going to see it because of him. I didn't know him, but I found out he wrote it after I had mentioned the fact that I liked it. So every film he's done I've enjoyed, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. Well, listen, Mr. Wolfman, I really appreciate you doing this. I respect you immensely, and thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
You have a good day. I'll talk to you later.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And that's about it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to follow the Facebook page, MC Popsicles World. Also, thank you, Mr. Marv. I'm just in awe of you. I appreciate you coming on so much. And